let's clear up one of the biggest mix-ups in the sustainability world. ESG, CSR, and sustainability are not three versions of the same thing. They serve different purposes, come from different origins, and serve a completely different business purpose. In this video, I'll explain the difference and help you understand which one actually describes the activities your business is actively working on. And if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Christine. I'm a freelance sustainability consultant, and in this channel, you get to learn all about building sustainability into business thinking and processes. I know you probably don't subscribe to every channel that you watch, but if this video is helpful for you, I do hope you take that next step and don't miss the upcoming videos over here. But now let's start by unpacking why ESG, CSR, and sustainability even get mixed up. And even more importantly, what happens when we confuse them. Part of the mix-up comes from the fact that these terms developed at different times and for different business goals. CSR came first when companies wanted to show that they care. Sustainability entered the business environment later on and broadened and formalized this thinking. And ESG, that was mostly for investors needing solid numbers to describe the positive and negative impacts and risks of their investments. So today, depending on who you talk to inside a company, you might hear all three used interchangeably. And that causes real confusion. Teams lose track of what's important, the external stakeholders get mixed signals, and frankly, not using the terms correctly comes across as unprofessional, since they are not the same thing. So getting the language right is a small but important step toward building trust and getting everyone involved on the same page. To clarify this further, let's go through each one so you can see what makes them different. What CSR actually means. Let's kick things off with CSR, or corporate social responsibility. It's been around the longest, and it's where a lot of companies started their journey. Historically, CSR was all about companies showing that they are a good corporate citizen. It grew out of the idea that businesses should give back to the local community through philanthropy, donations, and volunteering. These activities are usually managed by the marketing or HR departments, and they're great for employee engagement and telling a great story. Over time, the CSR has expanded into broader responsibility themes, but it still remains mainly voluntary and reputation driven. Generally, CSR is a voluntary initiative and often driven by the motivation to improve the company's reputation. Consequently, it is often communications driven and usually sits outside the core business strategy. There is nothing wrong with CSR, and over time, CSR initiatives have achieved plenty of good. But in the world we're living in now, it just isn't enough for many companies, as CSR doesn't provide tools to manage ESG risks or contribute to business strategy. Next, let's have a look at what sustainability means. When we say sustainability, we are talking about the way company approaches doing business. Sustainability isn't a campaign, it's not a project, but a strategic approach to business development. And it covers a broad range of topics, including environmental, social, and economic. How I see it is that sustainability means thinking long term, how your operations impact the world, how climate change affects your business, and how you remain competitive in the future. And it usually requires ownership across leadership, strategy, and operations. Finally, let's look at what ESG stands for. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and this is where things become a bit confusing. Unlike CSR and sustainability, ESG is about describing a company's performance in measurable and comparable terms. As ESG was created mainly for investors, banks, and regulators, the goal is to assess non-financial risks and long-term financial performance and compare them across companies. ESG is not so much about intentions or storytelling, it is more about measurable indicators. Things like greenhouse gas emissions, workplace safety, supply chain risks, board structure, and anti-corruption controls. These are the kinds of factors that directly influence whether a company is considered resilient, well-managed, and investable. Also, it might be worth mentioning that, especially in Europe, ESG is now structurally linked to regulations due to EU directives like the CSRD, the SFDR, and the EU taxonomy, as well as the voluntary sustainability reporting standard. Companies are no longer just encouraged to talk about sustainability, they are required to prove it with reliable, standardized data. So, if sustainability is the long term direction of the company, ESG is the system that measures how well the company is performing on that journey. Now, let's compare CSR, sustainability, and ESG side by side. Starting with purpose. Why is a company working on it? CSR is about doing good and giving back while also improving the company's reputation. Sustainability is about ensuring long term business success. And ESG is focused on measurable performance. Next, the audience. Who is the key stakeholder for each initiative? CSR mainly speaks to the public, employees, and local communities. Sustainability looks at stakeholders across the entire company value chain. And the ESG is primarily for investors, banks, and regulators. Finally, let's compare the role inside a company. CSR plays a supportive role and is usually not core to business strategy. Sustainability is an integral part of business strategy, and ESG sits in risk management and compliance. When you look at these differences side by side like this, it becomes much clearer why they can be used as synonyms. CSR is all about being responsible. Sustainability is about the direction the company is heading. And ESG is focused on performance, how well you're doing compared to others. They're definitely related and interconnected, but they mean very different things. Understanding the difference between CSR, sustainability, and ESG is more than just using the proper terminology. It's a signal of a clear understanding of the company's priorities, risks, and long-term direction. When these three concepts are used correctly, internal alignment improves, decision-making becomes easier, and trust with external stakeholders becomes stronger. So I hope that watching this video helped you get clarity on when you should use each term. And if you did enjoy this video and want to continue learning all about sustainability in the business context, feel free to take that next step now. Subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.